Welcome everyone to Football Shocks Footballing Agenda. I'm Colt K, Leeds fan.
I'm James Rocker, Manchester United fan.
It's the one and only, you can't clone me, Mr. Young, alive, handsome and tired, Shady Arsenal fan.
Now, we've been away for a couple of weeks, so I know Shay's probably got a couple of them he can use over the next 2 weeks or so. But we have been away for a couple of weeks, and there has a lot been happening in football. And we're going to kick off with what I think something people aren't really talking about enough. It's the incredible form of Manchester City. They're not 19 unbeaten. They've won 19 games in a row. They've turned what was a tight title race into basically a procession. No one's getting near them now. James, I'll go to you first. I know how much you love talking about City. For you, where has Pep turned it around? So I remember at the start of the season, me and you said this season for him is the big test for him. And they didn't actually start that great, did they?
No, it wasn't a good start for City this season. I remember there was, when they signed Diaz, a lot of it was how will he bed into the team. Didn't look like he got up to the best of starts. But since then, it's been incredible. And I think I've seen a bit of analysis, you know what I mean, of how City are playing this season. And something they're doing a bit different to previous seasons compared to this one is they've always had a bit of a possession game to them. But this year it's been a bit of a step back on the pressing side of it, you know, so they're not pressing as high up on the pitch, but then they're playing a lot more possession-based football. And with the season the way it is, with games coming thick and fast for a lot of teams, the squad that they have as well, so they can, you know, chop and change. They can chop and change their players and keep such a high level compared to, I suppose, like other teams in the league. I think they're just running teams ragged, really. And so that's why I think we're seeing their goal scoring go down a bit this season in terms of they're not blasting, let's say, the lower teams in the league 5-0 like they seem to have done in the past. But they're consistently getting those at least like 2-0 wins, maybe 3-0 wins, and they're just not conceding, which is the phenomenal thing. And you've got to say, Diaz has definitely been a part of that. The resurgence of John Stones, which can we put a lot of that to Diaz? I think Cancelo, after having a season in the Premier League as well, now looks like he's really found his feet at City. And, you know, there was talk of him, I think, leaving last summer transfer window. Can't see that even being slightly the case this season. So, yeah, I'm blown away, really. And like you were saying, 19 games in a row won.
It's unreal, isn't it? It's a ridiculous record.
I mean, surely they've got to be... surely they've got to be close to beating some record with that, don't they?
I mean, I haven't looked it up, but they must do. When I saw 19 games won, it wasn't unbeaten. I mean, it's all competitions, by the way, not just Premier League. So that is just an unreal record. And I think what you say there, for me, is the main factor is defence wins titles. And that is being proven for City at the minute. Because I think last season, City's problem was they were going into it and their mindset was, we just outscore everyone. Which, I mean, it's entertaining. But for me, the problem they had is when Aguero was injured and Jesus was injured, they didn't have that focal point to banging goals. And what they've done this season is they've still had those same issues, but what they've done is focus on defence. And they've won those games 1-0. They would have lost last season. And that, for me, is a major difference. John Stones, I'll be honest, I thought he was done at the end of last year. At the top level, I thought Pep had kind of made his mind up on him. And I thought he might go back to Everton. I actually thought Leeds might go in for him when Ben White wasn't going to happen. I actually thought he might be a shout for us to get him on loan or something. But his resurgence has been incredible and good timing as well for the Euros. I think he'll start now for the Euros for England. But it's their defence. Their defence was titles, and Pep, for me, I will reserve my judgment on this season until the end, though, because if they win the league, great achievement. But it's not about winning the league at City anymore. They have to win the Champions League this season. With the kind of form they're in, there is no excuse for them to not go and win it. For me, it's between them and Bayern. And I hope that's the final, because I think that'll be a hell of a fucking game between them two teams. But for me, you'll judge Pep at the end of the season if they've won the Champions League. If they don't, it sounds harsh, but even if they win the league, it's a failure, because the league at City, for me, I don't think means anywhere near as much anymore. Shay, we'll go to you. What do you think they've done to turn it around this year?
So the first thing is, I was looking at the record. I think Bayern Munich have the record, which is 23 games, I think it is, won in a row. And I think that was from I think that might have been when Pep was there. I can't remember. It was definitely
To
recently.
be fair, it might have been last year with the
Possibly, yeah. Like Bayern have the record, then it's Madrid, then it's Man City. But to be honest, to echo what you guys said, defensively they are solid, man. You don't see them conceding any goals. I think last year one issue that they had was when they conceded, they dropped a lot of points. And Liverpool ran away with it. Now, ever since I think it was when they lost at Spurs. I think the Spurs loss was a turning point for them. I think that was their last league loss. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
It was, yeah.
The
last loss, full stop. In fact, it's the last time they've been behind in a game.
Ridiculous.
I mean, how insane is that? They haven't even been behind in a game since
then. But for me, what I will say is this. City now has to win the Champions League. Pep got given a new 3-year deal. And the Arabs gave him that deal because they want the Champions League now. It's a bit like Chelsea a few years ago. Eventually, the Premier League becomes... It's still a good achievement, but the Champions League is the holy grail. And until Pep wins that, there'll always be a question of, well, he hasn't won the Champions League. So that has to be City's aim now. If they don't win it, unfortunately, people will... For me, it will still be there, the question mark, why haven't they won it? But that is the be-all and end-all this year. But if they win the league, look, fair play to them, they're going to win it. But the Champions League is where they need to, win as well, basically.
I mean, they could easily do another domestic treble.
Well, but this is the issue, James. Every kind of thing domestically, Pep has already done at City. They've won the domestic treble.
Yeah, but still to win, to still do it is still...
But the issue is...
I know the Champions League is their focal point, but no, I don't think any team's ever done the domestic treble twice, have they?
I don't think they have, but the point I'm trying to make is when you do something once, it's always more impressive than when you do it a second time. Purely because the domestic treble, I don't think it's been done before. I'm not sure, or if it had, it was for a long, long while. And the fact is they've done that. They've won the league with 100 points. For me, everything they do, City have done in the last 10 years, has been building to win the Champions League. And let's face it, that's Pep's remit. That's why he was brought in. And the fact is, if he doesn't win it, he fails, which sounds ridiculous with what he's won. But that's why he was brought into that club. So that's what I mean. Their form is something else. I genuinely can't see anyone stopping them this season. They're going to win the league, but I will reserve judgment until the end of the year. And I think I mentioned to you at the start of this season, James, this for me is Pep's big test because the great coaches, the great managers don't just win things, they rebuild and win things.
Yeah.
And that's what I think Pep's having to start doing with City. Aguero now getting injured a lot more. Silva's gone and Foden has stepped up into that role under Pep. He's covered that well. Diaz has been brought in, I think, and you're starting to see the defence recover from Company leaving. Yeah. So you're starting to see him do that. If he does that and wins the Champions League, then and only then can you talk about him with the likes of Ferguson and other managers like that, because these are managers that have rebuilt teams and still won massive things. So we're going to see. At the end of the season, I'll judge him, but until then, to me, he sounds ridiculous, but Pep is a failure in England. Until he wins the Champions League, he's a failure.
Come on.
It's a fact.
I know why you're saying it, but he's not a failure in England.
Champions League. If he doesn't win it, he fails.
No, he's failed at doing that, but he's not a failure in the English game. Come on, Kieran.
Until he wins the Champions League, he is. My problem with this, right, is with this team City has got, I'm confident that most managers can win the league with that team.
Yeah, but they can't have done what he's done. Like you mentioned it yourself, domestic treble, possibly going to do that again this year. 100 points, 100 goals or whatever it was. Do you know what I mean as well? These are things no team's ever done in the past.
All right, let me. I know you watch F1, so I'll give you this question, right? If you bring Lewis Hamilton onto your team with a remit to win the World Championship, and in his first season, right? And in his first season, he wins a lot of races. He's very impressive, but doesn't win the World Championship. Has he failed?
In F1, it's slightly different because maybe he doesn't have the car 2 with it.
Imagine, no.
You know what I mean?
That the analogy is, has he got the players? Pep's got the players, so Lewis has the car. Has he failed?
Arguably. Oh, yeah. I can see that. That's the point
I'm making. For me, as impressive, I'm not saying he hasn't been impressive in the English game, but until he wins the Champions League, that was what he was brought in to do, like it or not. And to be honest, I think this season, if he doesn't win it this season, I struggle to see him winning it ever, because he's got the team. They're playing very well at just the right time, and I think his only real competition is Bayern. If he loses in the final to Bayern, you can kind of not accept it, but you kind of get it. Like, they're also a great team. But apart from them and Bayern, I think everyone else is a level below them in the Champions League.
I say who I think PSG really have a shout this year. I think Mbappe is stepping up to another level.
True.
I mean, they did to Barcelona the other day wasn't even with Neymar in the team. They had actually a fair few injuries in that team. PSG.
I still
there.
think they're slightly below.
I rate as a manager. So.
But look, that is a debate for the end of the show. We're going to talk about Champions League winners at the end, but we're going to contrast now. We're going to go from.
Can I just say though, with the City, I just want to get your guys' opinion on this. If the only game I can really see City possibly maybe losing this Premier League title is in the game against United in the next couple weeks.
Do
you agree with that? No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying I think we'll win it as such. We'll win the league, but would you agree that if they beat United, with us imagine United being second in that moment in time, then that's the league definitely done and dusted?
I think the league,
because if we win it, do you know what I mean? It goes to 7 points. You've still got maybe 10 games of the season to go. Teams have faltered in the past. I agree. I don't think City team looks like they will. But if they beat United, for instance, for me, that's
on United keeping the pressure up, and United could do that and then go and lose to Burnley.
Which I completely agree. I'm just saying, I think for me, that's the one game I'll say City have then won the league title at that point.
Well, look, we're going to contrast now, because when they go for a tip from City, a team that are flying, to a team in Liverpool that, if I'm honest, I don't even know where to begin. The injuries are a massive factor. I know every team gets them, but I think they've had a horrific time of injuries this season. But before this season, they hadn't lost at Anfield in nearly 4 years, and they've now lost 4 games in a row at Anfield. The last one was a derby against Everton, and Everton haven't won at Anfield since 1999. The last time Everton won at Anfield, Stone Cold and The Rock were headlining WrestleMania. That is how long ago we're talking. It's an unbelievable record that got broken. And Shay, I'll go to you first. I mean, where do we even start with Liverpool at the minute?
I think you kind of touched on it. First thing is the injuries. Yes, that is a problem. I knew when Van Dijk went out at the start of the season that would be a huge, huge loss. They've had other injuries, but generally, performance-wise, they've been awful. They're not even scoring. So they played at home against Everton, failed to score. Home against Brighton, failed to score. Home against Burnley, failed to score. And got flat 4-1 by City. They're not even scoring. That's worrying. If you're losing at home and not scoring is a big, big issue for getting goals up front. But also as well, I just think they're getting, not found out, but I sort of do think, I'm not too sure, but they look like they've just run out of steam. They're getting found out. They're not scoring goals. And unfortunately, I knew when they had a couple of injuries that the players that had to come in to pick, the players to come in to fill in, a lot of them weren't going to be as up to scratch, and some of them are playing out of position. So it's just not good enough. They're not scoring at home, which is terrible for me. Terrible.
I think it's a combination of different factors for me. I think if you look at Klopp, when he was at Dortmund, he had a very good first few seasons. But if you remember, he had that season where they were absolutely awful. And I think that's being repeated here, because the fact is his style of football is high press, high intensity. And I think after a few seasons of that, and they've sustained it at the level they have, they're now seeing a natural drop-off in form. But I think also the fact that this style has contributed to the amount of injuries they get in. So they've had a couple of years of doing this, basically non-stop, realistically. And I think this year the injuries have bitten them. I think it's finally caught up with them, and what you're seeing now is a mixture of bad timing of injuries, key players missing, and just a natural dip in form. And I also think their problem in terms of goals is because they're doing the same thing every game and expecting something different. Liverpool's game plan seems to be out wide, crosses in. They haven't got players in the box who are going to get on the end of those crosses. So I'm not sure why they're trying to play that way. You see it all the time. I think I think against Everton, that's all they try to do is push out wide, have Trent and Robertson, who can put great balls in, put them in the box. But Firmino isn't a target man. And neither is Salah or Mane, who inevitably most of the time are hugging the touchline anyway. James, try not to laugh. But what do you think their problem is?
I mean, I'd be lying if I said that the injuries haven't contributed. I mean, they clearly have. Do I feel sorry for them though? No, not at all.
Of course not.
But it's not necessarily the injuries. It's the fact that the injuries, I think, have all been predominantly to their centre backs. Really, do you know what I mean? When there was an injury to Thiago or someone like that, they have some cover. But I think what this is really sort of highlighting in, for instance, a team like Liverpool, as compared to City, and I'll even say United this season, they don't have a great squad. They've got an absolutely fantastic first 11, maybe, a few good subs, that can come in as well in certain positions. But in terms of the squad, it's not great. And I think that's what's really been highlighted this season. And something else I don't understand with Liverpool, rather, and why I don't have... It's probably the board at this point, or the management. In January, they knew they had an injury crisis at centre-back. Go and get your centre-backs early. Don't wait around for it. Don't wait until the end of... Which, to be honest, I blame United for last year with Bruno in a lot of ways. We waited to get him right until the end, and we could have had him in probably before that Burnley game, which we lost, I think, 2-0, if I remember. And I feel like Liverpool could have done the same thing. They know they had issues at centre-back. Get your centre-backs in early, so you've got that cover. And as much as they don't know necessarily the Liverpool style of play, I'd have chucked both of them in straight away and moved Henderson right back up into midfield, because I think that's been a huge factor as well. I think mostly because Thiago just can't do the job that Henderson does in midfield. Thiago can move the ball brilliantly, but I think he should be further up the pitch. He should be looking... Thiago, I think, does what David Silva kind of did really well at City. I think he finds those passes in between the lines very well. And having him so deep is... It's not taking him to his best game, and Henderson's not been used in his best game either. The centre-backs, I think, if they'd have just chucked those new ones in, both of them, and they could play a bit more of their natural style again. Because I think they're having to accommodate, but at the same time, they're, like you're saying, they're not adapting. It's not working for them, and they're just not going for it. I honestly think they would be better off playing a bit more of an approach United have, really, in sit a bit deeper, allow the teams to come at you a bit more. A team like a Brighton, a team like a Burnley, actually allow them to come at you a bit more, because the pace that Liverpool have on the break within Salah and Mane, Firmino could obviously link the play up brilliantly, and there's counter-attack. Go for a bit more of a counter-attacking approach. And I think it could really suit them and get them out of a bit of trouble. Plus, their defence has a bit more cover then because they're sitting deeper. But ultimately, it's just not really been their season. I think... I do think they're making a lot of excuses with the injuries as well. Do you know what I mean? I know it's unfortunate, and I do know it's contributed to the issues they're having, but they're acting like other teams never get injuries. Do you know what I mean? And that's what's just kind of doing my head in a bit with the whole...
Well, I think you've got a point there in terms of their defence. They should have done their business early, and instead they ended up with a guy from the University of Central Lancashire FC. Big up Shay, who went there. Shay probably played football with him on the street in Preston. But they've ended up with a guy who is the definition, I think, of a panic buy. They've just gone for anyone. And Liverpool, I think, got a big summer ahead of them. I think they will invest in the summer because something needs to change. And for me, they are back where they were 5 years ago when Klopp kind of just took over. They've dropped off to that point. It's gone past the dip in form now. There's serious issues there. And with the news that Henderson's going to be out for, I think, 8 weeks it is, it's even worse. I think they will recover and they'll end up in the top four. Personally, I think they'll probably just focus on the Champions League this season. The league is gone. They'll focus on trying to get as far as they can in that. But I think they'll probably end up fourth this season, which for a team that walked the title last year is shocking.
You still think they'll get fourth? I'm not even sure if they will, with Henderson out as well. I'm not sure if they will. And
West Ham and Leicester are not good enough to finish in the top 4. I will say that now. I think they've had great runs,
Leicester are. I think
but
Leicester
they'll
are.
drop off. And Leicester would. We've had this debate before. Rodgers would always drop off.
Mate, but Leicester look a different team for me this year. They've signed players well. I agree. A lot of it depends on if like Vardy and like Maddison stay fit, I think. But Barnes is chipping in with a lot of goals at the moment. Tielemans is getting goals. I don't know. They just look a better team for me this year. I think James at the back, Castagna has been a great buy. Fofana, do you know what I mean? At centre back, Soyuncu's come back now. I think they can do it. I think they've got enough in that team.
I suppose they're out of the Europa as well. But we're going to talk about the Europa at the end. We're going to skip into our next topic. It's one that I've been looking forward to talking about. We are talking about Rafinha, Leeds winger, signed at the start of the season for 70 million, which now looks like we went to France and literally robbed them. Like, dragged him out of there, threw, I can't even remember, I think it was Rennes or Lille, threw them the equivalent of a pound Rennes in football terms, and took away a player that has been absolutely unreal. James, I remember when we signed him, you said you thought we got a good deal there, but I don't think you or anyone expected him to be as good as he's been. I will happily say he's a different class to every other player we've got. Shay, I want to go with you first because I know how much you love talking about Leeds players. In your non-biased opinion, how good is Rafinha?
Very, very good signing. He's come in and he looks like he's been in the Premier League for years. How did that one slip under the radar in terms of top signings? I think when the window happened in the summer, when people talk about the big signings, everyone talks about Thiago, which is fair enough. It's understandable. But this guy Rafinha, he's come in and he makes
retired Gary Cahill.
Absolutely. Cahill had to put him down because this guy Rafinha, he's everywhere, man. Like, he's in the middle, he's left, he's right, he's always pulling for the ball. He makes things happen. And to be honest, he has been one of the signings of the season. He's 24 years old as well. And he's on a 4-year contract or 5 years, whatever it is. I can't remember.
4-year deal that he's 6 months into, yeah.
Meaning that if any of the big sharks want to come, Leeds can charge a premium price. They can charge 60, 70, 80 million if they want to, basically. And I believe he is knocking on the door of a Brazil call-up. I really do. Douglas Luiz got a Brazil call-up. He plays for Villa. He's better than Douglas Luiz. And I think he gets a Brazil call-up very, very quickly. And yeah, very, very good signing. And I'm very excited to see what else he can do. It's a shame he wasn't at the Emirates, but yeah, very good signing.
Everyone is entitled to a bad game, but look, I'll admit, when we signed him, if I'm honest, I didn't know too much about him. I think James mentioned to me you thought we got a good deal, but he came on against Villa as a sub. I think it was his first game, and I instantly saw he was a class above what we have. I think he put a through ball in that literally took out half the Villa defence. It was a ridiculous pass. Since then, he scored 5 goals. I don't know how many assists he's got, but I'd imagine it's a decent amount as well. But the goals he's scoring, the quality of them are unreal. The one against Everton where he bangs it in the bottom corner from about 30 yards out. The one against West Brom where he's cut inside. And it reminded me of Robin. He's cut inside and just, as soon as he shot, you knew it was it. It was that good. He scored a free kick the other day against Southampton that was, again, a deep 25, 30 yards out, and he's beaten the goalie on the goalie side, which, I mean, that has to be some effort to do. And for me, it's also the kind of unglamorous part of his game. He's not a player who's going to stand up there, wait for his moment to do the fancy stuff. He's always tracking back. He's always hustling. I mean, he wouldn't be in Bielsa's team if he didn't. He works hard, but I mean, he's been in England, half a year, and he's already retired, Gary Cahill. I don't know how you come back to that. That was a joke of a piece of skill. And he, for me, is one of the best wingers in the league. And it worries me that a lot of the big teams are going to come in for him. But I think, like Shay said, because of his contract, we will make a lot of money off him if he does go. Worst case scenario. James, what do you think of him?
I think he's a very good player. Like I told you when you signed him, I'd heard things about this guy. I'd seen the odd thing. I know this might sound a bit silly as well, but I knew on FIFA he was one of those like youngsters that if you buy early in a career mode, he rises to a really
He's 96
like,
rated on my FIFA career mode now, by the way. It's a joke.
That's what I mean. So like I heard and seen of everything. So when you got him for 17 mil, like I said, I remember saying like I think you've got a good player there for a very good price, and I think it's showing. I think it's still a bit raw. Do you know what I mean? I still think can improve on a fair few things, but the prime for a player is normally they're like 27s, sort of to 30 years. Do you know what I mean? So he's still got a fair few years before he gets there. I don't see him going to, even though you're saying like the big teams look like they might be interested. I don't see him leaving this summer.
No, I don't think he'll either.
Possibly the summer after that, when he's got less time on his contract, is when teams, and they'll get second season to look at him. He might not do it, a second season in a row, but I'd be very surprised if he didn't, because I've seen enough there that there's a very good player there.
And you know what? As well, full credit to Bielsa as well for helping him. Full credit to him. Full credit.
Which I suppose, no disrespect to Leeds, but I think he's shown that he can play beyond you guys.
He's a Champions League player. From what I've seen of him, he's a Champions League level player. He really is.
Definitely be playing in Europe. But
and I think it's hard as a Leeds fan, but the fact is, if I'm honest with myself, at the level we are at the minute, he's too good for us. As bad as it sounds, he is. He is something. He's actually. I just hope he is here for another season, so I can go and see him in person. That's the kind of player I think we have. Just a joke of a player. And the question is, James, for 17 million, do you think is the sign of the season? Can you think of anyone of a better deal done last season?
Yes, and who I think that is, even though they've signed for obviously a fair amount of money, is Ruben Diaz at City. I think he's been the one that's changed their fortunes completely, and like they found a leader in a guy that's only 23 years old as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, he could be in this league for another 7 to 10 years, and if he's as good as he is already, it's actually kind of worrying to think how long City could dominate, particularly, do you know what I mean, if they can keep that.
My response to that is, though, they signed him for what, like 60 million?
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was
for
a
that
hefty
kind of
fee.
money, he should be having a big impact. Like, for that kind of money, you expect a big impact.
But you've still got to live up to it. And like you were saying, they haven't. I think they've conceded 4 goals in the past, like, 14 games or something like that. But it's like Shay said, if
we actually did go to sell Rafinha this summer, I think we could probably get 60 million for him.
I just think in terms of signing of the season, I put it on Ruben Diaz. And I've actually got a few other ones I just like to throw out there and just see what you guys think. I think Souček at West Ham.
Now, that was a good deal. How much did they pay for him?
I think it was like 20 million euros or so. So I imagine
that's about the same, really, what we paid for
about the same, yeah. And I think he's actually been that missing piece in the puzzle in that West Ham midfield. And he's having an absolutely brilliant season. And another one that I saw or thought of when I was going through the teams earlier, I'm just trying to remember now. I mean, Leicester with Fofana, I think, is definitely up there as well. But I probably wouldn't put him on necessarily on the levels. I thought United maybe with Cavani. You got a little shout there.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I get he was a free, but at the same time, you are paying him a lot of money a week.
And I would say I don't think he's done enough as such. I mean, he's done well, but I don't think
I just want to ask Shay. Shay, how does it feel when you see Rafinha doing this well at Leeds for 17 million when the Pepe and Willian deals? I mean, if you put it into context with that, the 17 million paid for him is ridiculous.
Yeah, well, to be honest, Willian was always above 30, so we never had high hopes for him anyway, and also was a free transfer. And Pepe was never a 70 million pound player. To me, Pepe is a 30 million pound player who's, unfortunately, the price tag was too much. But Rafinha deal was obviously a much better deal than both. It's not even close. It's a much better deal. And also, with Rafinha, there's something tangible to show, basically. Willian's got nothing tangible to show for his time at Arsenal. Rafinha's actually got free kicks. He's got instant impact. And I believe that inside the next 3-4 years, I believe he will go to, as you said, the Champions League club. And he will have a very, very good career. And also, I believe that if he continues his rise, if he keeps playing well, I believe that he'll be in Brazil's next squad for the Copa America next summer. I think it is next summer.
Is Willian the worst signing of the season?
Could be, potentially. Could be.
I've never had free transfer before where it genuinely feels like Chelsea ripped you off. Like, they've given him for free and they've still somehow ripped you off.
Well, you know what? I've always wondered, what do Chelsea inject into these players when they sell them to us, basically? You know, do they like give them some poison to make them out absolutely dead? Petr Cech, William, unfortunately, it hasn't worked out for William. And yeah, for me, Rafinha is a much better signing.
Who would you say your signing of the season is, though, Shay? If you had to pick a person,
signing of the season is Ruben Diaz. Only because Diaz's impact at City has been bigger at this point in time than Rafinha's, at least, because at the moment Rafinha has made a big impact in Leeds. But Ruben Diaz's impact is so big to the point where City look unbeatable. Now, Leeds obviously are not going to be unbeatable, but I believe that Ruben Diaz is slightly above it. But that may change in a month's time. But in terms of best 11 right now on form, I think you have to put Rafinha in there. Best 11 in the Premier League on form right now.
Well, I just want to say, boys, I've actually thought of another few honourable mentions. I think Aston Villa, Emiliano Martinez, and Ollie Watkins, I think,
good deal. They recruited very well over the summer.
And I think
really
even though Newcastle are in the place that they are in the league, I think Callum Wilson has also been another one of the signings of the season. Because if he doesn't play, they don't score, pretty much.
It's a good point. But I agree with the Villa ones, really. If you look at where they were last season and how they've been this season, their recruitment has been absolutely, top class. And I feel like they've really established themselves as a Premier League team now. But we're actually going to switch from the Premier League now. We're going to talk about Europe. We haven't spoken about it a lot on here. The Europa League and Champions League now in the knockout stages, which for me is where it gets exciting, particularly the Europa League, because all the fucking scrubs and farmers and doctors and nurses and checkout boys and trolley staff are now fucking out. We are into the knockout stages, and we're going to start with the Europa League. Last night, I was celebrating in my living room, celebrating the death of Arsenal season, and they somehow managed to scrape through by the skin of their teeth with a late Aubameyang header. Shay thought they were out as well. I know he won't hide that. With the second goal in particular was an absolute calamity by Dani Ceballos. I think Bradley, who's not here, and I quote, said, "Send that fucking fraud back to Madrid." When he gave them a second goal on a plate. Shay, after seeing that, the Europa League is Arsenal season now. They're 11th in the league. League is really done. The Europa League is their season. After that performance, obviously you're happy to be through, but are you confident about winning it? What are your thoughts of Arsenal's chances?
We are not winning the Europa League. Never were. Never will be. We are very lucky to still be in it. That performance last night was embarrassing. How do you almost go out on away goals in a neutral ground? How is that possible? Yeah. How do you have the away goal from the first leg and still struggle to make it through? Normally in knockout football, when you have the away goal from the first leg, it's normally a cakewalk most of the time. And we were very lucky to beat Benfica. We were very, very lucky. So we are not going to win the Europa League. We're playing Olympiacos next. If we get past that, once we play a decent side, we will be out, unfortunately. If we play Man U or Leicester or Tottenham, I believe we will be out. Unfortunately, we're going to be out. So Europa League is just games that's just filling up the calendar. We aren't going to win it, and that's that really. So yeah, hopefully we go far. I would love to play Spurs obviously over 2 legs, but I believe they will beat us over 2 legs. But time will tell. But we're not going to win it. Period.
Well, I mean, that's what I was going to say. Spurs also comfortably through. I would love to see. I mean, I would actually like to see Arsenal make the final. I would, because I would love to see a Spurs-Arsenal final. I think that would be unreal as a European final between them two. Spurs comfortably through. There's not too much to talk about there. United also comfortably through, but I want to speak to James about the draw today. Man U draw through AC Milan. So a nice, easy draw for United there. I mean, you're shaking your head, James, but realistically, that's a game you can win.
It is, but like this always seems to happen. I swear our luck in draws in the past few years has been bloody awful. Like, absolutely awful. Like, even going back a few years to when we drew Barcelona in the Champions League, to a point where we couldn't actually play our home fixture. Do you know what I mean? In the first game, I believe, which is when I believe you always want to. No, in the second fixture, because City were also playing apparently on that day. Like, do you know what I mean? That's the kind of luck that I feel we've had in draws the past few years. I thought Real Sociedad was a tough fixture as well to draw in the round of 32. Do you know what I mean? Because they were first in the league at that moment in time. Dropped off a bit since, but still not an easy game. And now we're facing AC Milan, who are second in the Italian league. Like, out of all the teams you can be playing in the Europa League, AC Milan are definitely one of the hardest ones still in it. So it is what it is.
When you consider Spurs have got Dynamo Zagreb as well.
But then again, I don't disagree. I think we're a better team, better squad. So I think we should be winning this. It will be tough, don't get me wrong, but I think we can win this fixture. So in terms of who I think can win the whole competition, though, I have a funny feeling we're just going to mess it up again. Is, like, honestly, like, my problem with it, to the point that I can honestly see, for some reason, Arsenal putting some jammy thing out of their arse and winning it. I honestly feel, for some reason, Arsenal might win the Europa League. It's an outside shout, but I just have this weird feeling.
Right, we're going to wrap this up, so I want some quick fire predictions of who's winning the Champions League, who's winning the Europa League. James, go to you first.
It's a weird and outside shout, but I'm going to go Arsenal. I think they've got nothing else to play for this season, and they're going to throw everything into it. And weirdly enough, they always seem to win a cup competition when they shouldn't be winning anything in a season. So my Europa League, I'm going Arsenal. And then Champions League, I'm going to go PSG this year. I think this will be the year that they finally do it. I think the team that can stop them is City. If they avoid City on the way to the final and etc., I think they'll win it.
For me, in Europa League, I'm actually going to go Spurs. I think Mourinho is going to do the classic Mourinho thing of this is his competition. He wants to win this year. He's going to put all his eggs in that basket. And let's face it, his style of football in knockout competitions always seems to do better, especially over two legs as well. He will go and stink out every building he plays in, but he won't give a fuck because that is what he does to win trophies. So for me, Europa League is Spurs, and Champions League for me is Bayern. For me, they're still the best team in Europe. City and potentially PSG are the only ones close to them. But for me, they're with the addition of Sane as well, they're too good. So I'm going to go Bayern for that. Shay, wrap it up. Come to you. Predictions for both competitions.
Champions League, I'm going to go with Paris Saint-Germain. I think I was very impressed with their performance in the Camp Nou, even though Barcelona aren't that great. But I'm going to put my money on them. And in terms of the Europa League, I'm going to go as far and say, I don't know, it's a bit of a tough one. I'd probably go and say my favourites to win it will probably be... I'm going to go and say Spurs. Maybe. Yeah, Spurs.
What? You're saying Spurs? I think you're just saying that because you just don't want to be right.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll win it, but I do think they've got a good shot. And I think they may win it. They may go and win it because Jose knows how to play knockout football. So, but I'll say most likely Spurs. But who knows? Who knows? But yeah, that's my prediction.
Well, with that bombshell, we're going to wrap it up. This has been it for this episode of the Footballing Agenda by Football Shock. I'm Colt K, Leeds fan.
I'm James Rocker, Manchester United fan.
It's me, the one and only. You can't clone me, Shady Arsenal fan.
Fuck's sake.
Have a good one, guys.
All right, cheers, boys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.